Welcome to this video. In this video, I would like to show and explain to you how you can create and set up a custom flexible workflow. Basically, a flexible workflow is an easier and more advanced workflow in SAP S/4HANA compared to the SWDD, so the SAP Business Workflow in the previous versions. And within here, there are a lot of predefined activities and blocks available that you can use, and you can set it up also in SAP Fiori to have a more advanced version. So enjoy this video and let's get started. To create our custom flexible workflow, we have to do a couple of steps. So first of all, we have to create our leading object. Basically, the leading object is in our case an ABAP class, which uses a predefined interfaces, and we redefine a couple of methods. And then after that, we will basically build and create our flexible workflow itself in the transaction code SWDD_scenario. That is really important. And in our case, I would really like to build a one-step approval workflow. Do it really simple to show you what is needed to build a custom flexible workflow. After that, I will set up the event linkage that we can test properly our flexible workflow, and that the flexible workflow will be called properly. After that, we have to activate our flexible workflow, and then we will test our flexible workflow. We will test our implementation. So first of all, let's create our leading object as an ABAP class. To do this, we have to go to the transaction code SE24, and within here you type in your specific ABAP class name. So for example, ZCL_WF_APPR_flex. So then we click on the create button and on description. So for example, flexible workflow demo, whatever you want to. Then, usual ABAP class, I remove the final checkbox, then I click on save. Here I just save it to my temporary package, so $tmp, or you can also click on local object button. Then we have to do a couple of steps. In order to use the ABAP class in workflow or in the flexible workflow, we have to make sure that your classes uses a couple of interfaces. So for example, BI_object is one, and then we have to use BI_persistent, and then we have to use IF_workflow. So these are important to use. Then within attributes, here I would basically like to make a one-step approval for a purchase order with purchase order line items, and therefore I simply just would like to use ms_echo, for example, and then mt_ecpo for the line items, and then for example ms_lpor for the logical object itself. Then under level, we always use instance attribute, and the visibility in those cases public, once again public, and this could be private. This is totally fine. Then within the types here, echo, and here I'm using set_tt_ecpo. Here it's a custom data element or table type. I will explain it in a couple of seconds, and I would like to use SIBFLPOR. So, and here, then I will save it right now. And if we go via the forward navigation, so with double click into the ABAP dictionary in the SE11, here we can basically see that this is a table type with a line type ECPO. So basically I would just like to store the purchase order line items, and therefore I'm using this table type. So keep this in mind. You can also create it really easily within the ABAP dictionary within the SE11. So going back into the SE24 within the class builder, Then we're going into methods. Here it's important that basically the magic itself happens in the find by LPOR, but first of all we have to create our constructor. So yeah, it's once again an instant method, it's public, and here constructor, that's perfectly fine. If we go into this, yeah, we would like to save it. Then it's important that we are using a parameter. In this case, so for example, is_lpor. Then, yeah, we can enter once again the ISB FLPOR. So this is perfectly fine. Then we're going into source code. Yes, we would like to save it. And here basically within our attribute, we're passing the logical persistent object reference to our attribute. So therefore just doing these assignments. And also for the other ones. So if you, for example, would like to have a closer look, so with double click here, we can see that it has the instance ID, the type ID, and the category ID. So those three will be passed and assigned. So then we're doing exactly the same for the other two. So here for the category ID, and here, for example, for the type ID. So just to pass it. And here it's important, if you, for example, using an object number or something like that, this will be stored in the instance ID. You can convert it what you like to, and then you can also replace this one with your converted one and assign it to the instance ID. So let's do a syntax check and activate this within here as well. So let's activate everything. This is fine right now. By the way, I'm using always shortcuts. So Shift F1 for the pretty printer, Control F2 for the syntax check, and Control F3 for the activation itself. So then let's go back. So here we have now our constructor, and now we would like within the find by LPOR, we would like to redefine this as well. And here we're basically just assigning the result to our object reference. So here we're just calling the constructor with the given LPOR, so with logical persistence, so no syntax check find. So this is perfectly fine. Then we have to also redefine the LPOR method itself. So if we go here, basically we're just assigning the attribute to the result. So this is also fine. Doing a syntax check, and then it's needed that you just redefine the other methods. So just double click on this, save, then go again to the next one and save, and also go to this one, save, and to the release one as well and save. Then with Control F3 you can activate those quite quickly. So objects activated, perfectly fine. What we then have to do, so basically once again we are now using those three interfaces. We set up our attributes that we need. We have basically set up our methods, and if you need more methods, just implement them. That's totally fine. Now it's important, in order to use the leading object within the event linkage, we also need to define events, obviously. So here I would like to just create an event. So for example, start, you can also create it, whatever you need to. Then within type, I'm using an instance event, and with the visibility it's public. So here, for example, start workflow. So then I Control S, I'm saving it, and now within the parameters it's important that you are defining your parameters that you would like to use when you're raising the event of the ABAP class, so that you would like to pass basically into the workflow and that you are using in the workflow. That's why you need basically the parameters. And in my case, I, for example, would like to pass a SAP username to set up the username or the user as an approver within the workflow. Then I would like to pass the purchase header information, and then I would like to pass the purchase line item information. So in this case, setting up IV approver, then we can associate the type, for example, this one. So for the username, then we can use is_echo with the purchase header information, and with IT ECPO once again with my created table type of the ECPO information. So I'm saving it, I'm doing a check, and then I'm activating it once again. So this is basically a very simple setup of the leading object. Once again, keep in mind to use those three interfaces, use your attributes that you need, keep in mind to at least redefine the find by LPOR and the LPOR methods, just redefine the rest of the methods. Create a constructor and set up a event or multiple events depending on your requirement and the parameters that you would like to pass into the workflow. The next step will be to create our flexible workflow itself. And you may know the transaction SWDD in order to create workflows. And if you would like to work with flexible workflows, then you have to use another transaction. It's SWDD_scenario. So once you've opened this up, then maybe you will see your previously used workflow or a blank space or blank input fields, as you can see right now here. And then the first step that you have to do is basically you click on this create new workflow button, and then you will end up in here. So basically, you can enter your abbreviation. So for example, set _ APPR. So for example, here flexible workflow demo, whatever you want to, within a scenario type standard is also perfectly fine. And here our leading object that we have to define, that we have to create within our workflow container. So therefore within here, within the workflow container, we just double click, and here you can enter, so for example, purchase order, whatever you want to. So purchase order, then name once again, purchase order, a short description, purchase order, head and line items that we have here. Now it's important that you are selecting CL for ABAP class and that you are using the leading object, so the ABAP class that we have previously created. Then within properties, now it depends what you would like to do with the leading object. So whether you would like to import the values, whether you would like to export it. So depending on your scenario. Then basically you can take this over, and here you have to select the created container element, in this case purchase order. In this case, once again, I won't create a SAP object node type, I won't create the object type, the CDS view, just really simple example to show you the flexible workflow, but you can also do this as well, but it's not needed right now. Then here within the workflow start events, basically you set up the start conditions. So here you have several columns, so the binding, the start conditions, so stuff like that. Once again, we would like as the category select CL for class and the object type over class, and here the start event. So that's important. Then within the binding, it's now important that, as mentioned, within the event parameters, you're passing the information that you are needing within the workflow, and therefore we have also to create the container elements for the purchase order header information and for the line item information and for the approver, and that's what we're going to do. So just double click, and here once again approver, then approver once again, and short description approver, depending what you like to. So just enter what you need, and then within properties, once again, and then take this over. Then once again we're needing the PO head, for example, so purchase order head, and here also as the short description, and then here we're needing the echo, and within properties, once again, depending on your requirements. Then we need the PO items, so purchase order items, in our case purchase order items, and once again our predefined table type, so CTT ECPO, and then within the properties what you need. So that's all we're gonna need. And within the binding, this is really important. Within the binding, you so we're saving it right now. To make the binding, here you can once again specify your package. I will define it or link it to my local package, as a local object. So I know I would like to do the binding, and here it's important that you will get some proposals. So as mentioned, the event parameter IV approver to approver, that's perfectly fine. Echo with head as well, ECPO with items, and this is also fine. You can leave this as they are proposed. So then we have the binding, then you can activate it. Here you will create a customizing transport, so this is also quite fine. So take this over. Now we have defined our start event. You can also create a workflow runtime event, but right now really not needed. Then control, you can leave it as it is, and within activities, here we're basically defining the one-step approval activity. But before doing this, we will set up an agent, because as mentioned, I will pass the approver name into the workflow and would like to use it within here. So once again, I create a new agent rule, in this case approver, just a short description, and this is perfectly fine. And within here you have multiple possibilities, but I would like to use the approver, because once again we have binded the event parameter approver to the workflow container element, and in this case we are using the workflow container element. So here I will take this over. This is perfectly fine. And now within activities, I will go to create new entry. And here basically we're defining our one-step approval. So just enter approval. So once again, approval, it's a user decision, because you can approve or reject the approval, and this is perfectly fine. So I take this over. So here you can define a title. So for example, purchase order, and then I'm using and one as a parameter, and with the parameter I would like to use from PO head the purchase order number to replace the given parameter with this value, and once again as the expression I would like to use the workflow container element approver. Here in this case you can basically approve or reject in my case, so the output name will be approve and reject, and also the outcome ID as well. Nature is basically the color and the what does it look like. And here, for example, if you're approving, then it should be positive, green, and if you're rejecting, then this should be negative, so to red. So once again, saving it a couple of times in the meantime, that nothing will be lost. Then move over to control. And here basically you will have a predefined task. And I would like to copy this existing task from the template and, for example, call it set decision, for example. So custom decision task. Yep, I would like to. Then let's do a new entry, for example, with set decision 2. In this case, I will copy, I will enter my package. Why have I created a new task? You can also use the existing one, but I would like to specify an own task description. Yes, I would save this. And to do this, I don't want to override the existing one. I would like to create a new one. And to do this, basically, I go once again into the container. Now we are in the task container, and within here I will create a new element, and in this case it's simply purchase order. Let's name it PO number to be precise. Here once example, purchase order number, and here I would like to enter the IBAN. Properties, in this case just important that it will be imported or necessary. I will take this over, and then I will go to description. Then here you can click on change text, and now it's important that if I use enter once again, that within expression, that if you click on expression, that we're using the PO number. So in this case, I would like to use the PO number. So in this case, purchase order number. And then this parameter, this variable will be replaced by the purchase order number. So then go back and then save it. And then going to once again back. And now it's important that we bind from the workflow container to the task container the purchase order number. And in this case, I click on binding. And here it's basically important that we enter the IBAN with the PO number. So and then we confirm. By the way, if you want to, you can also transfer back the decision node, so basically what has been selected or used by the user to work within later on, but in this case, we don't need this. So then step classification, you can use it as an approval step. Then you have to make sure though to set a proper authorization. I will leave this blank. Then the agent assignment for this task is not needed right now. We have our task complete, once again unclassified, and then we will save this. Yeah, that's fine because we have created it, but here our decisions are still there because we're also using one decision task. So once again, outcomes are the same. You can set up some push notifications for the task. So if you click on push notification, then within here you can click on the action, for example, what can be used, and under text, then you can also here approve PO. So this is perfectly fine. So input this here. So, and then save it. Yeah. Then going back, then we have also set up our push notification because now it's active. If you want to, you can also enter a program exit, not needed, some properties within here, and the result processing within here as well. Okay, let's check our decision. Once again, we've binded basically, so we confirm this. Yes, so we confirm this. And we confirm this as well. We're saving this. So if we're going to the basic data, once again to our start event, within the binding, we can see that we're binding the approver, the purchase order information into the workflow. And if we're going into the activity itself, into the control, into binding, basically here we can see that we're binding the purchase order number into the task itself. And if we check here, then under description, we will display it here as well. So take this over here. Now we can see that it is new and saved. And now we're doing a check within here, and then we will activate the workflow within here. Okay, and if you would like to make some changes to the workflow, then make sure that it is always activated and saved, that it can be used. And you have also to make sure to remember your workflow ID, because now we would like to specify the event linkage. Okay, and now we have to basically set up our event linkage, or basically make sure that the event linkage has been set up properly. So therefore we're going into this transaction code, so SWETYPV. So then enter, so let's scroll down. So here we are. So the linkage is already there. If not, make sure to create an event linkage in this transaction. So with your leading object, with the start event, with your workflow ID, and with this function module. Next step, what we have to do is we have to basically activate our flexible workflow in SAP Fiori in the Manage Workflow app. So therefore open up the search and then just simply type in workflow, and then within here you have to open up the Manage Workflows app. Then what you have to do is within workflows, you have to click on the drop down, then maybe scroll down a little bit, but search for your created workflow. So in this case, flexible workflow demo. So we have not created one. There is no available. Then we click on create. And here basically just specify your workflow. So flexible workflow demo, whatever you want to. You can enter a description, a validity period, a start condition, what you like to, and one step. So we click on create, because here we would like to over one step approval. So we type this in, then the step type over activity approval in this case. The role is determined by the approver that we have specified. Deadlines are not important. So if, for example, we reject, then yeah, we're doing nothing, and cancel also the workflow. So yeah, this is fine. Then we click on create. So here we have now our one-step approval, and now we're clicking on save. Then we have created our workflow successfully. And now it's important, if your workflow is not yet activated, then you can always make some changes. But if you have activated it, then you can't make some changes. So then you have to deactivate it once again, or you have to delete it. But in this case, now it's activated. And yeah, great. What we now have to do, basically, we can test our changes. So then, therefore, for this case, let's go into SAP GUI, for example. Let's open up the SWUE transaction for creating a event. ABAP class, setCL, WF, APPR, flex. And then with the start event, we haven't specified a key attribute, so an object here, but we have specified some event parameters, and we now would like to enter the approver. So in this case, my username, and I won't pass all the information for a purchase order number, but just, for example, within here, this purchase order number, because also to see that it has been passed. I can also pass some information for the purchase order line item, but I will leave them blank right now. So then I click on apply, and then basically, yeah, fingers crossed, let's see what happens if we clicking on create event. So now we can see that the event has been created, and let's jump over to the SWIA, so the transaction for the work item administration. And here we can basically see our flexible workflow, that basically the decision activity is currently ready. And if we, for example, if with Control Shift F6, if we're checking our information that we can see within the workflow container, those information are available, and within the task we can see also that the purchase order number has been passed successfully to this activity as well. We're going to the SAP Fiori Launchpad. Go back, a couple of steps back here to our My Inbox. Then here basically we can see our work item. So here once again the transferring of the purchase order number has been worked successfully, and you can also within here approve or reject it. We will see also why there is not a valid as a status, but here once again click on approve. You can add one decision note, you can click on submit, and then it's basically processed successfully. So go once again into the event linkage and create a couple of steps, some events. Then we will see how we can fix the existing, because if we go once again into the SWIA and refresh this, then here it is still on ready, and if I execute this work item, then no administrator found for this task. We can fix this, and therefore we have to open up the SWU3 transaction code. And here within classify tasks as general, we have to make sure that all of our tasks are set to general. So we execute the activity, and then we go to attributes, and then we have to specify it as a general task. So we click on transfer. We're saving it to a customizing request. Yeah, this is fine. And then we update the index once again. So, and to do here as well. So then transfer. So we update this, go back. So, and now this is green, so this is perfectly fine. And then we go once again into our create event. So we trigger the event. Then we go into the SWIA once again. And within here we can see our event. And if I go once again to My Inbox, do a refresh, then we can here see now it has the status ready. By the way, here we can also see our push notification. So this also works perfectly fine. And once again, here you can approve or reject this. So if I click on approve, I can enter a decision note and then submit or cancel. And I can do also exactly the same. If I click on reject, then also it is rejected. Okay, great. So let's go back into here. So yeah, by the way, if you are not going into SW3, you could also do within the task, not here, you have to go to the agent assignment. So here, click and here you could also change your task to general task right now here, so that you don't have to do it afterwards. So by the way, if you have any questions on flexible workflow, I know there could be some issues, but basically focus on the binding. Yeah, and if you have any questions left, also please put them in the comment section. Please like this video and please subscribe to not miss great upcoming videos. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.